We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
We have a lot of questions to get to, so we just got to dive in. Before we do, though, I have one thing. We just got to dive in, but I have one thing. Yeah. Baron Browning, when we get to the interview, what's interesting is I think a lot of teams are considering him to rush the passer, maybe potentially even be a 3-4 outside linebacker, play along the edge a lot more than maybe he did at Ohio State, which I think will be interesting. You should listen to that interview. It's good. All right, jumping to first question on the listener mailbag. And before I jump here, this is the second to last listener mailbag we're going to do before the 2021 NFL draft. Any question we did not answer, Renner, I need you to commit to this. Any question we did not answer, you need to commit to this.
Okay.
You can send that screenshot of your question to me or Mike in a DM. Our DMs are open, and we will answer them before the draft. We were going to do the 10-hour live show, but we also have a bunch of other shit going on in the studio. George Chahuri, Chief Experience Officer here, was going to kill me if we did 10 hours of live content. It's going to be a grind. Yeah. We're going to do 2 more episodes of the mailbag, and then it could be international. It could be Irish. It could be anything. You send us a screenshot of your question that we didn't get to. I will answer it in the DM, or Mike will answer it in the DM.
Awesome answer.
No, Mike, you have to commit to this, okay? You have to.
I eschew responsibility.
All right.
I will answer the DMs.
Cool. All right, let's go ahead and get to ace_92101. Great football draft information. However, the dating, drinking, and frat boy banter is annoying and unnecessary.
Oh, yeah. I started that one off the top.
Wow.
Keep us humble. But also, Notre Dame doesn't even have frats, so how could this be frat boy banter?
And I wasn't in a frat.
Yeah.
They didn't let me.
I was in a coffee shop.
I was in a coffee shop frat.
Mike's in the Fraternal Order of Police with his new haircut.
God damn it.
He walked right into that.
I hate it.
The Fraternal Order of Police. Hey, could you stitch in on the YouTube video, Quinn, a little badge on his a little badge on his shirt? How funny would that be?
I'll give it a whirl.
That would be so funny. All right. Anyway, if you aren't watching on YouTube,
I'm wearing a hat.
You need to check it out on YouTube because he's got an interesting cut. Sergeant Renner. Joe Martinez is asking, just started listening to the podcast recently. It's now my go-to. Is there a realistic path to contention with the next few seasons for the Jets based off what they've done for the past 2 off seasons? Drafting Mekhi Becton and Denzel Mims, loading up on future draft capital, and presumably drafting and building around Zach Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, hell yeah. Like this is kind of how it goes. It's a slow build. You got all this draft capital. Just got to hit. Got to hit on a few of those, and then you can make real deal plays in free agency down the line to get you over that hump into the next level. Kind of like what we saw with the Bills. Like slowly build a few pieces here and there in free agency, draft well, hit on that quarterback, and then get a few more pieces here and there in free agency because it gets a lot easier to build that roster when that quarterback's making not a lot of money. So that's why I say hit valuable positions here. Hit valuable positions so you can fill out your roster with like a guard if you need be in free agency. A run stuffing DT. I know they have DTs for days, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like a position that you can go find in free agency. Maybe you're not finding a top flight corner, a top flight tackle.
Yeah. I think at 23, they should look at corner or tackle. I really like them, especially getting ahead of Pittsburgh at 24. If you can snag Tevin Jenkins before the Steelers do at 24 and pair him up with Mekhi Becton, Zach Wilson. And it call me crazy. I'm buying into the culture in New York. I really like Robert Salah. I really like Joe Douglas. I'm excited about what they're building over there.
They got, in my opinion, the top coaching candidate, especially Herb. Okay, no, Herb's the man. But he wasn't really a coaching
over
candidate.
Salah?
No
way.
Herb's the fucking man. No Herb slander on this pod.
I'm not saying there's Herb slander, but there's no way he's the top coaching candidate this offseason.
I mean, he wasn't even a candidate. You got him because you had
You know who had a similar take is when the Raiders signed Gruden. He wasn't even a candidate. They just got him. They learned about it at the booth.
Okay, well, Gruden never won a ship with 2 different teams. So
yeah, it was college. But anyway, this is from Turves. Now that a majority of quarterback pro days have concluded for this year's draft, how do you cumulatively rank the top 10 QBs from the last 3 years? We got to do this again.
Okay.
Renner,
we're make a fucking graphic out of this.
We're not going to make a graphic out of this. Can you just rank them as prospects, though?
This is what I'm ranking them as prospects.
Okay, because your take on after seeing Herbert last year and then not having him ahead of these guys was kind of freaking absurd.
Yeah, I got death threats.
And you should have gotten death threats. That was kind of insane.
Someone called me the R word. I was offended.
What's the R word?
You know what the R word
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Offensive stuff.
Sorry.
But all right, top 10.
Renner?
And you
Damn,
did that
that
to me.
sucks.
You did that to me.
I didn't do anything to you.
Top 10. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, the top prospect. Joe Burrow, number 2. Kyler Murray, number 3. Zach Wilson, number 4. Justin Fields, number 5. Tua Tagovailoa, number 6. Trey Lance, number 7. Mac Jones, number 8. Justin Herbert, 9. Dwayne Haskins, 10.
Herbert after Mac Jones as prospects.
That's how we have.
Yeah.
That's how the board's shook.
I think in hindsight, maybe flip just as prospects, maybe Murray over Burrow, but I don't know. Because they're both number one overall players on our board?
Yeah. Burrow's dude. I'm not worried about Burrow.
Fair. You see the knee scar? I think everyone and their mother did.
Yeah.
That thing looks
How big
vicious,
was it?
dude. That thing looks vicious.
I mean, if people see an ACL, that's how it goes.
Man,
It
fair
shrinks
enough.
over time.
All right, this is from C. Van Worm, maybe. The Vikings have to take Slater, Darrisaw, or AVT at 14. But if they trade down into the 20s, what lineman would be their best option? Also, could we get more depth and a more in-depth breakdown of Nico Collins? We've talked to Nico Collins.
We
a
did the
decent
Nico
amount.
Collins breakdown. I'm appalled by the amount of Michigan fans asking me questions. I assume that's a Michigan fan. Maybe not. It's Vikings. But I'm appalled by the amount of Michigan questions. Fewer, please. Tevin Jenkins, we just said in the 20s. I'd love. Because he's got some inside-out versatility there. If I'm them, I'm attack and tackle, though.
Yeah.
Like I'm not sure I need a guy who's inside-out versatility. And I push back on have to go one of those guys at 14. You don't necessarily have to.
Mm-hmm.
There's tackles you can find elsewhere in this class. But if one of those is on the board, they're all very good players. So
Fair enough. Go back and listen to previous podcasts to listen to the Nico Collins hype train. I will say this, though. We got to make a trip. If we do the tailgate tour this fall, Ann Arbor, man, looks awesome. I was there. You can't drink in the stadium.
that's most colleges.
Really?
Yeah.
I covered a game there one of my first years in Cincinnati, UC versus Michigan. And I was floored. Like, how do you not drink in the stadium?
Ohio State only did it like a couple of years ago. Notre Dame only has one section that you have to pay like.
My dad came to that game and wanted to kill me because I was covering it from the booth and he wanted to come hang out in Cincy and he wanted to stab me. He went out to the parking lot and bought beers off people at tailgating. It was a bad situation for him. All right, this is from Austin Can't Bench 225. Holy shit! Wow, that was shot fired. Shot fired here.
Ouch.
Catching strays. I can definitely bench 225. Maybe not anymore because I've been cutting.
But yeah.
But I could definitely bench
We got some flack on that comment. It was like a couple weeks ago. We were talking about Devontae Smith benching.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that said you couldn't bench 225 or I couldn't bench 225.
I could definitely bench.
I could
in
bench
my
225.
In my prime, I could bench 225. I think I got 6 to 8 times. Easy. Not easy. It was like my max. That was the most I've ever done. I remember there was an offseason. Yeah, I was trying to get to like 10 and I got like 6 to 8 once.
Do we really think Devontae Smith can bench 225 now? He's only 166 pounds.
He's got really long arms too. At
That would be tough.
166.
I think he can.
I bet he
There's no
can
way he can
one.
do not one. Yeah.
Who did one? Someone did one this year. Was it Puka Williams? Did one bench rep? Like he hops on the bench, does one, hops
I didn't
right
know
back
that.
off.
That's wild.
I saw, yeah.
All right. Well, let's get past this slander. Do you guys think that Giants could potentially form a top-tier defense with the addition of Micah Parsons to complement Blake Martinez? I feel like this would be a really good fit if Patrick Graham could let Parsons fly like he did at Penn State while Martinez commands the defense. I've had multiple questions about Micah Parsons to the Giants at 11
I love the Parsons fit there.
because they have like the Graham guy. He's a former Penn State guy and a lot of connections there.
And that's a defense that could let him rush the passer because they kind of use a true 3-4 outside linebackers who use those types. Kyler Fackrell was dropping into coverage a ton last year and rushing, like not a pure 50-50 split, but there's a role in that defense where you could let Micah Parsons fly as a pass rusher, as he said. I like it. Am I going to pass on one of the wide receivers? Probably not for Micah Parsons.
Fair.
It's probably not. But if like you trade down, which Dave Kettleman said he might
do it
trade
this
down.
year.
Never done it in the first.
Can I have a gripe, something that really grinds my gears.
Let's hear it.
My least favorite tweet in draft season is this
Fun to
team.
watch?
No, that's my favorite. It's becoming my favorite.
Okay.
My least favorite one is any tweet from a reporter that says they're interested in trading down. or trading their pick. I would rather burn my account before I tweet that. Every fucking team is interested or not interested in trading their pick. Or you think everyone's like, no, not a chance. Phones are closed. The phones are off. The phones are literally off. We're not listening to any trades. We're not doing anything. Sorry. What the fuck? Have you ever seen a tweet that comes out?
I guess if that's the case, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay. Have you ever seen a tweet of the other side? Have you ever seen Bengals will not trade their pick? Have you ever?
What's the number one? I think the Bengals last year, that got reported that they're not going to trade number one.
Okay, number one, outside the number one overall pick.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen a tweet where someone's been like, there's not a chance we trade out. Every single one's like, yeah, we could. Why even send that out? It makes no sense. It has no value at all. I'm sorry. It just has no value. This team might trade out. Sick. I might fucking grow 2 inches. Who knows? All right, let's go ahead and jump to let's go ahead and jump to people from GoDogs417. People are talking about what the draft would be like this year if Sam Darnold was in this class. But my question is, what would the top 10 look like if Trevor Lawrence wasn't in this draft? Also, this is more of a comment. I played high school football against Dorial Green Beckham. Oh man, that guy was a monster. If you remember him, yeah, I do. He lit us up for 300 yards and 5 TDs. Who's the best high school players you guys have ever seen live? Interesting. All right. You never played high school football, but who did you watch anything live?
Yeah. So Michael LaSure was the guy.
Oh, nice.
Former Lions running back, former Illinois running back. He was a monster. So the rumor was that he was on, PEDs in high school. 5'11". So I went back and looked at his combine. He was 5'11", 227. Ran a 4.56 and had a 38-inch vertical with a 1.53-10 split and a 6.82 cone. The guy was a horse. And he tore his Achilles before he ever played a game, I think, in the NFL. And that maybe lends some credence to the PED argument because he never came back.
I played against the Atkinson brothers. They played for Bishop O'Dowd. They played for Bishop O'Dowd, and those guys were nasty. They were nasty. I tackled one of the running backs on special teams, and then the corner. They played corner too. They were fucking good, dude. They were just like faster and more athletic than everybody on the field.
Didn't one of them commit suicide?
I think so.
Yeah, that was
Rest
sad.
in peace. That was not. Yeah, that is sad.
But yeah, I remember LaSure went for over 300 yards in a playoff game, and then he went and played defensive line in the fourth quarter. I was like, what the fuck? He was just a running back.
We had a playoff game against Cal High. I don't know the name of the player, but he had a full ride to Oregon. I was playing defensive end against this kid. I was just getting absolutely wrecked. It's just not even fair. He's like 6'5". I have like 28-inch arms. I'm just getting dogged in the post, but that was fun.
All right, the top 10 without Trevor Lawrence, I'm not sure it changes. Just like bump dudes up. You get Wilson 1, Fields, Lance 2.
Yeah.
Like I think kind of the top 3 still goes QBs. And I think, honestly, the 49ers probably still would have came up and made a play for a quarterback.
There's some rumors that they could be going after Lance now. It's just flipping from Jones to Fields to Lance.
Zero Line's take right off the rip. Lance is so interesting to me. He's just so... He hasn't played football. He hasn't played a lot of football, man. Like unprecedented.
I mean, you have him behind Micah Parsons on PFF's draft board.
Yeah, it's just... I don't know. It would just scare me to draft him that highly with just... You've barely seen the guy.
Yeah.
Really. And like I said, like it's almost unprecedented how little we've seen of him. Mm-hmm. But the physical tools are pretty crazy.
All right. This is an absolute novel from Ben Scheimer. As the one who asked about the Philadelphia Eagles breaking the NFL with throwing running backs and Jalen Hurts, I'm clearly searching for hope where little can be found right now as a fan of the team. I've been the biggest J.J. Arcega-Whiteside defender since he was drafted and have received incessant ridicule from my friends for this, and so has Mike. I was almost ready to jump ship, and then he made a one contest. I remember this one too. The one contested catch in Week 17 when he threw the game against the football team was all for that, and he got me back on the board. I'm back on board. I proceeded to watch YouTube video highlights, various routes he ran in that game, and saw he was open a decent amount of the time. Hurts either missed him or didn't find him. How did PFF evaluate his performance that game? And is it possible he could break out still under a new coach and quarterback? Or should I finally stop losing bets, banking on at least 500 yards from the guy?
Dude, I'm still all in. You go watch tape. He's not like bad. Like I remember going back and watching Nelson Aguilar tape early in his career, and it's like that guy is getting dogged. I remember he got pressed by Captain Munnerlyn in the slot and didn't get off the line of scrimmage. Fucking Captain Munnerlyn. That's not like J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. It's not looking like that. And I just want to remind people, wide receiver development, it's kind of a newer thing that guys just put up numbers right out the gate. Jordy Nelson's stats was the comp that I had for him coming out.
Oh, nice.
366 yards as a rookie, 320 yards in year 2 for Jordy Nelson. He would have been getting dogged for that pick nowadays if Twitter was around back then, and only 582 yards in his third year. He was not the Jordy Nelson we know and love. and boy, do we love him, until year 4. So, something to keep in mind. Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Don't ever give up. All right.
Tyler Boyd sucked right away too.
Some guys suck. Sometimes it's not.
Some guys suck. Can you put that on a quote graphic?
And then they don't.
And then they don't. All right, let's go. Mom019357.
It's your mom's name.
I was wondering what your opinions are on Frank Darby and Mark Gilbert. 2 Arizona State guys?
No, Mark Gilbert's the Duke cornerback. Frank Darby.
Interesting. Frank Darby, Arizona State. Mark Gilbert, Duke.
Yes. Darby is kind of a one-trick vertical threat guy, and he wasn't particularly good at that trick, to be honest. I not high in him. I think he's outside the top 200 on the PFF draft board. But there's some interesting physical tools there. I think he's higher. Nate Tice was higher on him than we were. Gilbert, and like I said, I think I've talked about this. 2017 tape, fantastic, Mark Gilbert. Breaks his hip, or dislocates his hip. Cost him the next 2 years. 2018 and 2019 with like multiple complications. He would have been easily a day 2 guy after that 2017 tape, but obviously that hip injury was not the same this past year. He's almost 24 years old. It's like a sad, very sad story, honestly, but barely late day 3 if you're going to take a flyer on a guy, if at all.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, jumping to Mace Pack 03. What are some realistic expectations for the Broncos in the 2021 season? Answer these with different situations. What is it with Locke, with veteran help? A Darnold or a Minshew? Sorry.
I'll say.
What is they doing? What is it, Darnold or?
If not, obviously not Darnold, but like that's
I'm interested to know what veteran help of Darnold or Minshew does. I'm interested to know how
it replaces Locke after 4 weeks.
Okay, fair enough. All right, Locke by himself. So no Darnold or Minshew at his side.
Yeah. 8-8.
And then Locke with a high rookie draft pick. So no Locke.
Yeah. I still think realistically you're in the 9-7, 8-8 conversation.
Fair.
I could bump it up to 10.
2021 is not your year for the
10, 6, 11, 5, like, Locke hits, but it's a tough sell.
This is from Armchair Linebacker. How have QBs, Wilson, Fields, and others grown from year 1 starters to year 2? And is it that indicative of common growth patterns that one-year wonders miss out on?
So developmental curve is different for everyone, obviously. Like you can't completely project, especially with quarterback, where it's such a mentally driven position, such a confidence driven position, such a like comfortability driven position. With Wilson, you definitely saw the confidence increase this past year. Like he's trying throws and doing things that just you don't do unless you have complete command of an offense. If you're just completely in control, and he played so loose. Fields, I think the biggest thing with him is that we didn't see a ton of year-on-year incremental increase. In fact, the things that everyone dinged him for heading into the year are the things people are dinging him for now, and is why people are low on him. So, that's kind of the worry with, I guess, like the one-year wonders when a guy doesn't have a lot of sample size, is that it's not, especially with the quarterback position, not always a super linear progression from year on year. Whereas other positions, I think you can assume more of the linear progression, more of positions where you're in complete control, whether it's like D-line, O-line is the one where I always point to. It's like you guys get better throughout their careers because one, physically so driven, and two, it's like you control every interaction. It's not necessarily, you're not relying on other people, and you can't be made to look better than you were, or vice versa.
Fair enough. All right, let's go ahead and jump now to Browns have best fans 88. What pass rushers could be available at 59 if Browns go wide receiver? Bateman if he drops or someone else. What wide receiver could be available at 59 if we go defensive end at 26? Which combination of two players offer the best short/long-term outlook, assuming wide receiver, defensive end in that order?
Love what they did with the Clowney signing. So not necessarily massive need, but 59, Peyton Turner, if we're looking at defensive end in that range. It's the intriguing guy for me, day 2. Ridiculous build, ridiculously productive, but only in 4 games this past season. The Houston defensive end. Fan of his game. Wide receiver at that point, we're going to say Diamond Brown for everybody. I'm not sure he's there. Josh Palmer likely will be there. some size, some vertical threat ability, that's where I'd go. That's where I'd be.
Josh Palmer, 59. Let's see it. All right, New York Giants fanatic for life. What do you think of the idea of teams weighing consensus draft boards and mock drafts in their drafting process? It seems to me that teams that naively place too much trust in their scouting process end up making the worst picks.
Oh no, did you ask this question?
I didn't ask this question. I'm not saying they shouldn't think for themselves, but sometimes isn't the boring pick the good pick? I'm going to comment here. I don't think you should blindly go off of the consensus board. That would be ridiculous. I do think, could you do better than most teams like that? Absolutely. But the consensus board doesn't nearly factor in positional value as much as it should. I think you could lean positional value and factor that in more into the consensus board. I think the other thing, what you use the consensus board for is you have your board. Hopefully that factors in positional value that understands the market value of the best positions in the NFL, and then use the consensus board to avoid reaches. Like that's the number one thing to use it for. Avoid reaches with the consensus board. If you have a guy on your board that's 20th and on the consensus board is like 80th or 90th, like who's 21st on your board? like who's the second guy? Who's 21st or 22nd on your board, and where are they ranked on consensus? Go get a guy that maybe, because you don't know who's going to fall. You don't know who's going to fall, but you can still take really good players. Don't pass on, don't force a guy that's 90th on the consensus board but 20th on your board over a guy that's 21st and like 30th or even higher or whatever it may be. Like, play the game a little bit. This is a game. Play the game a little bit. There aren't significant reaches. You can do data analysis over the past 3 or 4 consensus boards that the Athletic has put out and see how big the reaches have been in the first round. How often are players reached above, 10, 20, 30 picks? And it's rare, very rare. For that reason, avoid reaches with the consensus board. Avoid taking guys that are viewed by 50 other talented people, or maybe not all 50, but a good amount. Take the opinions of them into account when you're like selecting a player. It's all I'd say. Just factor it in. If you ignore it completely, it's malpractice. I'll say that right now. All 32 GMs. If you ignore it completely, it's malpractice. How do you feel about that?
Good answer. My Family Feud.
Good answer. What would what would you do if you were a GM right now? How much would you factor a consensus board into your decision making?
I'm not sure it's consensus board, but it's where's the public opinion on these guys.
Okay, yeah, so, public opinion.
Like what? Are you out on a limb yourself? If you are, not saying don't make the pick. Ask why. Why am I out on a limb on a guy?
Yeah. Talk to other scouts.
Do you have a valid reason, or is it just I think this guy's good? I think his talent's better than.
At least have the conversation.
If it's just I'm evaluating this guy's talent better than everyone else,
you're probably wrong.
There's reason to believe that maybe it's you.
Yeah, maybe it's Maybelline. All right.
It's like I'm like 30 years old, still single, tried a lot. Maybe it's me. I'm not at that point, but maybe.
My dad's been through 3 or 4 divorces. Maybe it's him. It's very similar. All right. Why Eric Ebron? Hey guys, I'm a Detroit Lions fan. Super Bowl 65 is ours. And I was wondering if we got Penei Sewell in the first round, who and/or what position could we target in the second and third rounds?
One, that would be fucking awesome to get Penei Sewell.
Yeah.
That's dream scenario right there. No positions off limits. I think edge is maybe the only position I'd say don't go for. You've invested a ton of money there. I'm not sure a guy sees the field anytime soon if you draft one there. But I wouldn't put any position off limits. That and tackle, obviously, because you just went tackle Penei Sewell. But that's really it, in my opinion. There's a reason you're drafting, 7th. And there's a reason you might be drafting there again next year. There's a lot of holes in that roster. So again, attack deep classes. I think you could even go interior offensive line there. Wide receiver, any of those.
Jumping off the Lions here, I definitely think for my take on the Lions should be the last thing as a Lions fan or as a Lions front office should be thinking about is positions. Dude, this team is garbage. You need to go out and get the best players. Yeah. You need to go get players at valuable positions and retool this roster.
Not a tight end.
Yeah.
Not a Jelani Tavai.
No, no box player, no running
setters.
Backs, no tight ends. None. Yeah. Don't draft them in the first 100 picks.
It really was malpractice how the positions they were drafted.
Yes.
I don't care about the players. The positions they were drafted.
So maybe I shouldn't say they shouldn't think about position. They probably should, but actively do not take box players, running backs, and tight ends in the first 100 picks. Just don't. Yeah. Your roster's not good enough to take those luxury picks. It's not. It's not. Go take tackles, edge defenders, corners, receivers, guys that are more valuable. Quarterbacks even. Go swing the bat on Trask or Mond or Davis Mills. I don't know. What I found interesting about the JT O'Sullivan thing, we haven't talked about this a ton. That was on the Monday podcast. Yeah. JT O'Sullivan joined the show. he has Kellen Mond as QB5 ahead of Mac Jones.
Yeah.
And not as a joke. Like, he was like legit, like Kellen Mond, I think is better than Mac Jones. I think that's interesting. We also didn't bring up your Chipotle Bowls. Your Chipotle Bowls tweet was fantastic. I really appreciate that one. Could you tell me what you think Mac Jones would get?
Oh, Mac Jones. He would actually get a burrito.
Yeah.
I think.
100%.
What's wrong with that?
He just would. We're just keeping it real here. He would get the
just
burrito.
Coming from the top rope, what's wrong with that?
Definitely white rice. Probably
Pinto.
Yeah.
No fajitas.
Pinto beans, chicken. Or wait.
Could be a steak guy.
Yeah, he could be like a carnitas guy or something. There's not a lot of
Double
carnitas guys
steak.
out there.
Double steak.
And then definitely just the plain salsa.
The mild.
The red one. Yeah, the mild salsa. And probably sour cream and cheese.
Queso too.
And queso. That's it.
It's fire. And a side of chips. All right, let's go ahead and get Fenner.
And 6 shots of tequila.
You love to see it. I was gonna say I was one step away from a bad joke. All right, with the step, I'm gonna hold it in. I'm gonna bring it in. All right, this is from Fenner TY44. What would it take for my Broncos to trade up to 4 with Atlanta to swing at QB this year? Or what is the possible scenario for who they would get with them trading back at 9 or even staying there?
Oh God, I just blacked out. Trade up to 4, Broncos, QB, possible scenario. I think a 2021 first, obviously, and probably like a third as well this year. First, third this year, first next year. I think that'll get it done from Atlanta's perspective. Yeah, you want that. You want a future first. Like, you want to build. You want that. If you're Atlanta, that is making so much more of an impact on your roster than one Kyle Pitts. It just is. You got to do it if you're Atlanta. If someone's throwing that type of offer at you, you flat out got to do it.
Fair enough. I like that. I think Denver, in my opinion, really does have to get aggressive with trading up, man. I really like their spot. They're in a really good spot now. Carolina's likely not going to be calling. The only teams they're probably going to be competing with for that spot is maybe New England at 15. I don't think Washington wants to come all the way up, to spend that much draft capital to come all the way up. Yeah. I think Denver, they're in the best position to do so, and arguably in one of the worst quarterback positions in the NFL.
Yeah.
I think it's not going to happen until draft day, though. It's really going to depend on what the San Francisco 49ers do at 3. If it's Mac Jones, it's a different conversation. If it's Fields, if it's Lance, it all depends on how obviously the Denver Broncos do the class as well.
Could be.
All right. This is from Dan RF46. Thoughts on Broncos at 9? Oh, another Broncos question. Would it be crazy to pick receiver and add to Sutton, Judy, Hamler, and Patrick? So Tim Patrick. Obviously, Cam Sutton and Tim Patrick are in contract years.
I think it'd be a little crazy. One, that guy probably doesn't see the field year one. 2, you want to resign Sutton. It's good business to resign good players that you drafted. Obviously, you don't know he's going to be like off the ACL, but and I kept saying about the 49ers, they're going to make a move for the quarterback. I think the Broncos are going to make a move for the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
They just have the most sort of incentive to do so.
Yeah.
Of any of those teams. The Panthers did, obviously, but they made their move prior to the draft. Now, the most incentivized team to go get one, in my opinion, is the Denver Broncos, with just where they are as a roster, where they've been as a roster, and their quarterback play ever since Peyton Manning retired.
All right. Rams, Family, or Ramley, and NC. Rams have had a lot of turnover, but do you think it would be redundant to go edge with their first pick, second round, and drafting Trill Lewis at basically the same pick last year?
Yeah, I think a little, unless that guy's a Carlos Basham, Peyton Turner, who can kick inside.
Gap versatility.
Yeah, that's the only type of edge defender I'd go, just because you got Leonard Floyd now signed, somewhat long-term deal in free agency. You have Trill Lewis, who looked fairly good, promising. Yeah, I just you're in the win now window. You're in the guys that can impact this team. So if a guy's not going to be able to see the field, I think that doesn't fit their strategy.
I also feel like that the Denver Broncos aren't. I mean, the receiver is not going to change the outlook of this team. I mean, they're going to be put in such a bad spot.
Yeah, it's the diminishing returns aspects. Those guys are getting open.
Yeah.
If you can't fucking make it happen with those guys, one other guy that's open isn't going to, not going to help you much more.
All right, this is from 50 Shades of Ray. My question is about the Seahawks and their inability to draft in the early rounds. Why have they been so terrible in the early round drafting? It is not paying attention to Is it not paying attention to positional value, locking into certain positions, scouting errors, a failure to develop players, or a combination of all those? Probably a combination. But if you were in charge of the draft for the Seahawks over the past 5 years, do you think you could have done a better job?
Is it bad to say like, yes, like anyone would have? Because it's a lot of this is luck. And I just, like, we would have done a better job by purely saying, hey, I'm not drafting a running back at pick 27. All of a sudden I do better than, like that kind of barely. Now they had some unluckiness. Malik McDowell, their first pick in 2017, obviously not even playing it down after the injury he had, and then getting arrested in a ridiculous video, which I would suggest watching if you haven't seen it. But yeah, so go back. Their top pick each of the past 5 years: Jermaine Ifedi, Malik McDowell, Rashad Penny, LJ Collier, Jordan Brooks. There's no rhyme or reason to these guys. Like, you got some bad athletes mixed in, some guys who weren't productive mixed in, some guys who were super productive mixed in, but then at not as valuable positions. So I don't know what their type is. I don't know what exactly their strategy is. Maybe that's the problem here. But yeah, I think I probably could have done a better job. But that's the thing. It's like the consensus board would have done a better job, because it's worth admitting that a lot of this is luck. And that's why you would say target the positions that are going to, if you hit on them, are going to be more valuable to your team, because it's still luck, because you can draft a running back like Rashad Penny, who you love coming out, and he could still not be great for you.
Yeah.
That's still a possibility, to no matter the position you're drafting.
So I push back a little bit on the luck conversation. I think where the luck factors in is simply injuries. Like I think luck, a lot of luck is injuries. Like, I don't think they become different players in the NFL. Like, I think a lot of the luck is, do they get hurt, or do they have off-field concerns that you didn't see coming?
Yeah.
However, I would even argue that off-field concerns are somewhat workable and somewhat part of your process to either identify before drafting them or to correct after drafting them through development and hand-holding and those types of things. And I also think that it's not luck that a player that you thought was really good doesn't turn out to be good, unless it's injuries. I think injuries is only really that factors in. If you draft a player that's very good, and your scouting department believes he's good, and you're invested in him, and you don't turn him into that good player, that's on you. That's you fucking up. That's the team busting. I always come back to players don't bust, teams bust. Unless it comes back to injuries. Injuries is something no one can see. You can't predict anyone getting hurt. There's obviously some injury concerns, some flags, and that kind of stuff. But a lot of times injuries are very luck and come suddenly and randomly. But off-field stuff, I think, can be seen ahead of time and developed post-draft. And I also think turning a really talented player in college football into a talented NFL player that never gets hurt is on you. And it comes back to grading the flashes and grading the strengths. Like, there's just no way. I think it's a cop-out. It's a cop-out for teams and scouts to be like, he just didn't pan out. Miss. Everyone misses, you know what I mean? He just wasn't that good. It's like, no, that was on you, dude. You drafted him. He didn't get hurt, and he still was shit. You drafted him poorly, and you scouted him poorly. Fact.
Get his ass.
I'm there. All right, this is from Salah Muhammad 28. I'm a Bengals fan. I'd like to get your insight on what they should do this year. Very simple.
The next question is Bengals related to.
Okay. From Max's 2385. At this point, it feels cemented that the Bengals at 5 are in a chase versus Sewell mode. Maybe Pitts. With one such argument being that offensive line will likely provide more value in round 2 versus pass catchers. Is this too much of a short-term view? Sadly, the Bengals are not a one-year fix. So with the influx of talented pass catchers coming into the NFL, with 7v7, college systems, pass first league, etc. Am I wrong to say it feels like it would be easier to take a shot at receiver in future drafts, especially if we are hopefully picking outside the top 10 versus trying to hit on a generational offensive tackle prospect in the same range in future drafts?
Love the Bengals fans. Love them getting active in the questions. This is the question of the offseason, it seems like.
It really is.
I think I'm come to an official opinion.
Uh-oh.
I think it's Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is the official opinion of the PFF podcast. I think you can find a tackle, and this is, it's a little crazy. I'll admit I'm swinging for the fences here, but Kyle Pitts is just a different animal, and I don't think it's a coincidence that when you have a guy like Travis Kelce, when you have a guy like George Kittle, when you have a guy that's that dynamic, Rob Gronkowski over the past decade. You have that dual threadedness, that mismatch. it's just a problem for opposing defenses that can't be replicated. That there's no way to replicate. You can, and like, yeah, I love Sewell. Sewell would be number 2 for me, but that's just something that every defense you're going to have to face is not going to necessarily have an answer for him. So I think Pitts. It's my official Pitts, Sewell, and Chase.
Pitts, Sewell, and Chase.
That's my official.
I think I might be Pitts, Chase, Sewell.
Oh, no. Sewell's fucking awesome. You're just fucking no.
It's tough. My favorite answer is they can't go wrong. I don't think you can go wrong. You draft one of those 3 players, those 3 weapons. I'm including Sewell as a weapon. You're going to put your team in a better position. I think you're splitting hairs on who improves your team more. I think you honestly are. Like, what would you say the percentage improvement your team gets with Sewell over the percentage improvement your team gets with Chase? Like, is it a handful of points? I mean, a half 0.25 wins. I mean, we're talking in the grand scheme of things. You're trying to win football games. It's not that big of a difference. It's not. Like, you're in a position to take a really good football player. Go take him. And I think Pitts is probably the best route. Then I'd go Chase Sewell, but you can't go wrong. You really can't go wrong. You're splitting hairs. Who does Burrow want? Who fits in the locker room better? Who's not going to be on the top of a car in a strip mall? Who's the least likely to be on top of a car in a strip mall? All right.
That's something you got to think about.
You have to think about these things. All right. It's not luck. It's not a crapshoot. Go pick the guy that's not going to do that. Find that out. All right. This is from John Doe 24413. What is the biggest issue with Drew Lock? And do you believe Pat Shurmur could be a larger part of the issue than he gets credit for? Interesting. In 11 years as an offensive coordinator head coach, his offenses have ranked in the bottom third of DVOA more times than they've been in the top 10.
I mean, he went for 2 OCs in 2 years. Obviously not great, but he had a good situation talent-wise is the thing, though. That there were a lot of other issues in terms of just like getting the ball where it needs to be accurately, being panicky in the pocket. Like, there's a lot of things that didn't look better from year 1 to year 2 that I don't think I'd put it was to a degree of badness. He was so bad that you can't peg it on just an OC, especially again with the talent around.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think the offensive coordinator is doing wonders for him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say he's fantastic, but still Drew Lock, a lot of that issue is on him. All right. This is from why are we always trying to blame coaches and stuff? I mean, fan bases love their players. It's crazy. Crazy. This is from OC the Don 9-3. Zimmer said Vikings will take the best player available at 14. Who do you think will be the best player at 14?
I think it's going to either be one of the wide receivers, Waddle or Smith, or Michael Parsons. I don't know if they're taking any of those guys.
Really?
But I do think those will be your best players available at that point in time.
Man, that would be sick if they could get Waddle or Smith.
They use too wide, though, too much.
Chad Beebe gets some reps, though. Wouldn't mind replacing him with a Waddle or Smith. All right. This is from Joko Jiba. What is currently in the works of PFF? Well, personally, and the company as a whole, what problems are you currently trying to solve? And what are you trying to create and stay ahead of an advanced metrics field? Interesting. Also, how does your relationship with NFL teams work? Do they come into you for info when they need it, or are they dedicated guys constantly in contact with teams around the league? I'll answer.
Yeah, answer these. I don't know.
Currently in the works of PFF, from a content and consumer side, obviously the content director here, trying to continue to progress forward as betting and fantasy becomes more prominent. The other thing is that we're trying to get into other sports.
We have an app, right, coming?
Potentially an app coming down the road. Tease that a little bit, Renner. Easy. That's supposed to be behind closed doors.
Is it?
I don't know. But a lot of stuff on the content side is really focusing on how sports betting is probably going to take over the NFL, trying to get in other sports, potentially soccer, potentially rugby, and so forth. And on the NFL team side, you can probably speak to this a lot too, but we currently, work with all 32 NFL teams. All 32 NFL teams pay us for access to our data and analysis, access to Ultimate, access to these different things. Also over 95, I think close to 100 FBS college teams. I think half the CFL, some Arena League, other teams as well. A lot of agents work with us. I'd say a bulk majority of the agencies work with us in some capacity, leveraging data analysis to put together contract pitches and those types of things. I think what's next on the NFL side is just continue to provide interesting insights that help them make decisions at all levels of the field. Making decisions on, do I sign this player in free agency? Do I draft this player in the draft? Do I go for it on fourth down? How often do I pass on early downs? All these decisions that you have to make that should be data driven that have been gut and feel and grit driven. Trying to add some data, add a layer of data and analysis to that, in addition to obviously diving into other sports. I'm still This is the first time I brought it up on the pod. I'm all for PFF tennis. Tennis, I think it is such a fixed event sport that the advanced analytics in tennis could be awesome. I think you could get really, really good with the advanced analytics in tennis. If you cut the court into slices, into like chess pieces, and then named each one and looked at how often certain players are returning, how often is a player returning from Q1 to A4, how with their backhand, with their forehand, and what how often are they placing it in different quadrants or different squares of the court? I think it could be really, really good if you got more advanced in tennis.
What about pickleball?
That sounds awful.
What do you mean it sounds awful?
I should have no interest in any of that. My relationship with NFL teams is I text them to draft players that I like, and then they never respond.
Sounds like your dating relationship.
And then when they don't, and those guys turn out good, I then heckle them.
I tried that same route on Tinder, and none of them respond.
Yeah.
Jordan Brooks was a reach, and I don't get anything. All right, this is from Isaac Saley. What does Liam Eichenberg show on tape to not be higher on your boards?
He's fairly high for a guy who's likely going to end up on the interior in the NFL with 32 quarter-inch arms. Not great length. He doesn't use his hands exceptionally well. Like, he is a two-handed puncher, the dreaded two-handed puncher. Doesn't have independent hand usage. Lacks what I would call high-level traits. He's just solid athletically, not anything special. Fairly powerful, though, despite being on the lighter end for the position. I mean, he's very sound, but like he's not exceptionally gifted. There you have it.
There you have it.
He's like 53rd on our board. That's
still high.
Yeah,
it's still very high. I think he's inside the top 10 of our offensive tackles. All right, jumping to Al Burrito. My mailbag question is, which teams would most likely pull an OKC Thunder and trade their stars for draft capital and young talent that still have potential after a bad start to their careers?
Oh, I kind of misread this one. Trade the draft capital and young talent. That's still. Oh, okay. So that was like what the Jaguars just did. Okay, I did misread it. So like the Jags just did I would say the Texans, but they don't have anyone to trade at this point. I think the Eagles are a possibility to do this because, again, a very analytically driven team. Obviously, that's been the whole talk of fucking offseason. They have a lot of aging guys that, it's Brandon Graham at 34. Is he going to be on your next Super Bowl team? Is Fletcher Cox, 31, going to be your next Super Bowl team? Lane Johnson? Are those guys going to be on your next Super Bowl team? Those are decisions that have to be made. And if it starts off pretty shit this year, you could see some of those guys getting moved. So I think the Eagles are, my opinion, the strongest possibility to be that team. Jay Jaws has a breakout year. You flipping Jay Jaws? Possibly.
Maybe
he's the building block that they need. And also, he's not going to have a big breakout year. They're going to pass like
for 40% of the time.
3,000 yards.
All right, this is from Wolves of Sheeple. As a Nebraska fan for 24 years, there hasn't been a lot of talent on the team in the last 5 to 10 years. Is there anybody at Nebraska? We get a lot of Nebraska questions.
Yeah, Nebraska got a big fan base.
Anybody at Nebraska on your radar? We should get out to Lincoln.
Did you see Andy Staples? So the Super League, the stupid soccer, whatever thing.
Yeah.
Someone explained it to me. But he said which college football teams would make their own Super League.
He included Nebraska?
And included Nebraska.
No, he didn't.
Which they weren't included in the Blue Bloods.
Nebraska's not a blue blood?
So you're maybe a little young. Nebraska was a gold standard program for a long time. I am just of the opinion that they're, in this day and age, they're fucked. The kids could give a shit about tradition, about...
If anything, they hate tradition.
Yeah. They want to go to the team that's hot right now. And they want to go to desirable locations as well. And that's, I think, the biggest thing that's fucked with Nebraska. Any guy you're convincing to go there, are you going to get a kid from Miami, a 5-star recruit from Miami, to come in the middle of America and go to Nebraska? I mean, that's like what Wisconsin's up against as a program, being able to recruit. It's what Nebraska's up against. Any teams in those sort of region of the country, you're just not, where there's not a wealth of local athletes to recruit, you're screwed. Mm-hmm. You're straight up screwed. In this day and age, you just are. You're not going to consistently compete in today's day and age with the sort of landscape of college football. It's just the hard, fast truth. Sorry about you, but that's Nebraska's just, they're fucked.
Sorry.
Until like Nebraska turns into, starts churning some better football talent out as a state.
Yeah. Sorry. I love the sorry comments are my favorite. You need to get out of that. Sorry, right?
It's sorry.
All right.
There's an O. Is there an A? Is it S-A?
Hey, don't
Is
get
it like
started.
S-A-R-I? Do you wear it around your
Sorry? Yeah, maybe. Prestige Worldwide. Which of the rookies that may have struggled last year, which is kind of expected, who do you expect to see a big jump in performance, and which guys kind of make you go, dang, this guy isn't it?
Ooh, okay. And he said also where in Wisconsin's Mike from?
Also, where in Wisconsin are you from?
I grew up in West Dallas and then Brookfield for like a little bit before I moved to Illinois. So
How many people there have that
it's
same
right down
haircut?
the street. All the cops. I was just down the street from Cops, which was sick. Still miss it before I moved. So big jump in performance. I was thinking Andrew Thomas, the Georgia offensive tackle. That's kind of just the nature of the beast at tackle. But he showed flashes, and I thought he got better towards the end of the year. Jeffrey Okudah as well, 1 zillion%. Who are guys that
You might just not take that
this
leap.
guy isn't it? Whew. Man, let me quickly take a look at the draft real quick. He's not going to make that leap. Because I missed that part initially.
Okay. I'm trying to think off the top of my head who
The one that worries me, it's going to be bad to say. Tua. Worried about Tua.
Yeah.
There's
That's a
kinda
fair
just-
take. It's a very fair take.
And now,
What
maybe
about
that's
Rager?
unfair.
Are you worried about Ruggs? Rager, Ruggs?
I'm not too worried about Rager. The situation was kind of cheeks there. Ruggs, I could say I'm worried about. That was not a situation you should have
Excelled in.
seen a little bit more success in. I'm worried about Isaiah Wilson. Let's keep it real. I'm a little worried about Isaiah taking the next step.
That was rude. That was really rude.
I mean, I am.
All right, let's go.
No, in all seriousness, do you think he'll get another crack at the
No.
NFL?
No.
Zero.
You don't think anybody
Not
will
a
offer
chance.
him?
No.
Okay.
They got traded for a 7th round pick after being a 1st round pick, and then was offered. They tried to handhold him to go to a voluntary workout, and he was on a strip mall car. I think this is Jamarcus Russell levels of done. You know, I think it's like when Jamarcus Russell was out, he was out. Like, did any other team even sign him after the Raiders released him? I don't think so. I think he might have floated around to a couple camps, but I think, oh, we didn't bring this up. Dude, one of the listeners sent me the picture of D. Milner. Remember we were talking about D.
yeah.
Milner? Dude, he's a blimp. He's blown up. I didn't realize that. Guys really turned a new leaf. If Isaiah Wilson goes that route, oh my God. Dude will turn into a monster. Be like Jabba the Hutt. All right, let's jump now to CM1287. You're Bill Belichick. Your dream scenario came to fruition, and you have your choice of Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and Mac Jones at 15. Oh, after a trade-up, sorry. After a trade-up. Who would you pick as the best fit for the offense?
See, I think what Belichick's genius is, man, part of Belichick's genius, he's never been tied to one thing. Like, he will one game beat you one way, next game beat you a different way. And so I think he understands that offensive football has changed in the NFL, that it's not this guy for my scheme. It's this guy's talent. How do I build a scheme for it? And so who's the most talented of that bunch? To me, Trey Lance might be. To me, Justin Fields is the one that offers the most at the moment to build around. Now, the scheme they've ran for years with Tom Brady, yeah, maybe Mac Jones is a better fit for that and what he does. Sure. That looked nothing like what they ran last year, though, because they had Cam Newton, and they completely changed up to his strengths and what he does best. And that's why he went and got 2 tight ends. So I think he's flexible, and there's no who's the best fit for his offense. I think his offense is very malleable to who's the most talented. So Fields, Lance, Jones, in that order.
As you have them on the
I
draft
stay on
board.
the PFF draft board.
Yeah. All right. This is from A Johnson 061094. Here's my question: Aren't traits very misunderstood? Take QB traits. People talk about arm strength and athleticism as if they're in this separate category, presumably because they're more innate. Aren't processing speed and how you see the field also a function of your biology, and therefore also somewhat innate? Kind of like how some people have more natural mathematical and linguistic abilities. JT O'Sullivan, I think, had good comments on this, because I asked him, what's coachable at the next level? First thing he brought up was footwork. But I do think he brought up with processing, some guys have it and some guys don't. Some guys can process the game fast, and some guys, it's always a blur to them, and you have to have an offense that comes down to their level, you know? And I do think that I would agree. I don't think processing can get better, but I think you can develop your offense and coach around it more than you can some of these other things.
What? Yeah, I was gonna say I think processing is a difficult eval. Arm strength's easy to eval.
Yeah.
So you got to throw a football. How fast did it go? That one's easy. Processing, though, is such an advent of so many other factors involved on a given play that it's just, one play where a guy freezes in the pocket. Did he have bad processing, or was the guy he thought he was going to go to run the wrong route?
Yeah.
And you just don't know that because you're on the outside looking in trying to evaluate this guy.
Did he lock into a certain receiver? In the huddle, did the receiver say, I'm going to get open? He didn't. Like, there's a lot of that stuff that can come in.
And a lot of that is, again, talent around you and the offense that you're in and what you're getting asked to do. So this is why people are low on Fields. It's because they think that trait is a static trait.
Yeah.
You don't improve in processing. You have it. You don't. You're there. You're not. But again, I think there are reasons very much baked within that offense at Ohio State and what they're running that can make him look like his processing was slower than others, when in actuality, I don't think it's a big deal. And I think in a different offense, he'd look much different. But they are, I agree that they are misunderstood. Especially, again, the mental traits are it's very difficult to eval. And even like what you spoke to about work ethic, and this guy loved the game, is going to put in that work off the field. That's a difficult eval also. It's going to be Isaiah Wilson, or is he going to be Luke Kuechly? Luke Kuechly was probably an easy eval, but
No, I agree. And I think the other thing, it comes back to the larger conversation about draft scouting and draft evaluation overall, and why so often, or for a long time, a lot of production was never really taken into account. And it was all traits, because traits, and it's not because traits matter more, but it's just traits translate. You can bank on traits translate. You can bank on a guy being athletic in college and him being athletic in the NFL. You can bank on him having a big arm in college, having a big arm in the NFL. And it's identifying what those traits are. Our trait is processing a trait, is accuracy a trait, is finishing a trait, or is it a mentality? These different things. It's identifying what actually translates. And that's, we had a couple questions ago about what's PFF trying to do. Dr. Eric Eager is working every day to get better at college to pro projections, finding actually what at the collegiate level is stable and translates to the NFL success. He's even done text analytics on Dane Brugler's draft guide to identify similarities in text conversation or text pros and cons for quarterback prospects. And you see certain words used for similar quarterback prospects of previous years and that type of stuff. It's all very interesting. It's all awesome. It's definitely a lot of fun. It's a big reason why the draft is so popular. All right. Going back to Logan 2452. I'm curious on your stance about defensive coordinators. I've heard George and Eric talk about it on the forecast, and they've said that a good defense coordinator can be as or more valuable than an individual defensive player. As a Lions fan, I look at the last 3 years and notice that pretty much every defender on that team had down years in that stint. Can a lot of blame be put on Matt Patricia, or was this just a poorly constructed team? DC,
a coach is more valuable than any positions outside of
QB.
It just flat out is. You got to put guys in positions to succeed. That's the heart of coaching, and some guys aren't good at it flat out. So that they were not putting guys in positions to succeed. I think that's very clear in Detroit. That's why he got fired.
All right, this is from Montego828. Absolutely love the pod, listening since the season started. What do you guys think the Jets should do in this draft? They have a lot of holes, but a major one that isn't listed on PFF is guard. Lewis and Van Roten are dreadful, and we need to protect the QB we draft. Any options at guard at 23 or later? Also, what is your guys' opinion on Jalen Waddle being called a mid 4.445 guy by Chris Sims, then not running the 40? Whoa, I didn't know that. Chris Sims says he's a mid 4.445 guy?
Jesus.
If Jamar Chase runs a 4.39 at his pro day, I'm pretty sure Jalen Waddle will run the 4.2s.
Who ran a 4.39? That's pro day?
Jamar Chase.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Jalen Waddle is not a mid 4.445 guy. Maybe with that broken ankle.
With the broken ankle, yeah, no, that's true.
That's
he
possible.
might be like a 4.6s. That was so bad that he went back into that game.
Yeah, I mean that's why he didn't run the 40 is what was asking there. Again, guard at 23 it's too early. You're too many other positions that need to be addressed in that roster. Now, third round, Wyatt Davis on the board, Trey Smith's on the board. We talk. Wyatt Davis, the Ohio State guard, Trey Smith, the Tennessee guard. Sure, pull the trigger. But that early, I would not. I would shy away. If you're going to draft guard there, that guy better be able to play tackle too. Right.
I think too. The other thing is I've seen sometimes mock drafts for the Jets at 23. Them grabbing Elijah Vera Tucker. I think he ultimately goes higher than that. I'd be really surprised if he gets past the Raiders at 17. Even Washington at 19. Like I think teams are going to value him.
Play tackle though.
Yeah, he could play tackle.
Play tackle last year.
Yeah. All right. This is from RC_. The Seahawks have made a couple good moves this offseason, but with only 3 picks, how do they approach the draft? It's interesting. Take it easy, right? I mean, lay back.
Take a year off. They got to go O-line, right? Like Russell Wilson's going to kill them if they don't. I think. And not only because it's deep, but because like their O-line's still not great. And so, yeah, pray also could help. Maybe examine past drafts. See what your strategy was, do the opposite, something like that. Any of those issues like that, yeah, I think you got to go offensive line.
I would say attack low value positions because you can still get starters with late picks. You could go get into your offensive line, into your defensive line.
Okay, yeah.
Box players. Because if you want players to play in 2020, or 2021.
Yeah, but the shitty thing is though, they also have the worst cornerback group maybe in the NFL right now.
Yeah, but if you spend it on corners in those rounds, like what the, you're not going to get a guy that's going to come in and starter. All right, this is from Puda.
Oh, this guy had a massive question. Here, I'll read him.
Okay.
Because he had like a novel that I had picked out the 3 questions that he asked me.
Okay.
So he said, I don't understand why teams can't push money into the future indefinitely using guaranteed money. He had a whole theory that you keep just giving a guy a signing bonus and pushing in the future. One, that relies on the player staying good throughout that time. So that like you don't want a bunch of players like guys getting hurt, guys not performing up to the whatever signing bonus contract you just gave them. And also players don't want to play on just one massive signing bonus and then no money in the future, because then they're playing on they're getting no cash to play in that year. So it does not behoove them to sit there and play for, whatever, $500,000. If you put all their money as a signing bonus, gave them no salary every year after that, they're just going to hold out and you're going to be screwed by that. So if you really are just giving everything up front, signing bonus wise, it's going to come back to bite you in the long run. Next question was, I guess what I'm getting is people don't put the receiver in the weak link category, but perhaps it is. Eric Eager wrote a great article about this, evaluating the importance of secondary receivers in NFL offenses, and found that they are more important probably than given credit for. So yeah, you're right on there. And then lastly, I'm curious why PFF rates Jamar Chase higher than Jalen Waddle, with Waddle being the physical freak that he is. 1, no injury for Jamar Chase. 2, age. I think Jamar Chase is a year and a half younger than Jalen Waddle. 3, production. Just like you saw it game in, game out, every single play. Waddle, we had 4 games of it this year. Size, 20 pounds on Jalen Waddle. Size matters. And then catch radius and like doing it on the outside consistently. So those are the reasons why there.
All righty. Long question. That guy was going in.
Man, he had a lot of, it was the longest question we've gotten.
All right, this is from Micah T. Last one here. We got to wrap up. Micah T. I know that intimidation/killing offensive skill players isn't a big part of the game anymore. What the hell is it talking about? But who do you think is the most physical, intimidating, tone-setting defender in this class? Oh, like who is? Okay.
Maybe Nick Bolton, probably.
Yeah.
If I had to pick one. Nick Bolton.
I still have that bet that he's going to have a roughing the passer penalty in as a rookie. I guarantee it.
He sets a big tone.
All right. The second one, if you were to create an offensive line using day 2 and day 3 prospects from this draft, who'd you pick and why?
All right. This is going to look like Austin's offensive line in the head-to-head
Why you got to bring
draft.
that up?
Got to do it. I'd go Dylan Radins at left tackle. Landon Dickerson at left guard. Dude's versatile. Quinn Miners at center. Gotta love it. Wyatt Davis at right guard. Jack Carmen at right tackle.
I like that.
It's my O-line.
Sam Cosme, I think, could be on
make a fucking good O-line for the day 2 guys.
You're just hating on my offensive line in that fucking rookie draft we did. You can make a good offensive line.
Yeah, but you can't make a dominant one like I got.
Who cares about dominant? Like this guy said, the days of intimidation and killing people is over. I wish. I think Sam Cosme could fit in there. You kick Carmen in the right guard, maybe. I don't know. I like Carmen a lot. I don't know why Carmen
is probably round wonder is why.
You think so?
Yeah.
He's not on the consensus board.
No.
I'm not going to keep bringing that up. All right. That's going to do it for this mailbag. Remember, only one more mailbag. And if we don't get to your question, man or woman, I am so sorry. We've been grinding. We've been trying. Right. You send me a screenshot of this, or Renner, because Renner's committing to this too. You send me a screenshot of your review with the question, and we didn't answer on the pod. I will answer it. And it'll be a thoughtful answer. Absolutely thoughtful. Make sure you send that our way. We have one more mailbag coming up. The bonus mailbag will drop on Friday. Until next time, that's it. Oh, no, we have interviews. We have interviews, right? We have interviews with Trill Williams and Baron Browning. Let's go ahead and jump to those interviews. Now joining the 2-4 Drafts podcast is former Ohio State linebacker Baron Browning. Baron, great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. Where I'd like to start is really looking at your pro day. Had an absolutely stellar pro day there for Ohio State. Measured in at 6'3", 245, 96th percentile vertical, 98th percentile broad jump, 92nd percentile 40-yard dash, and then the three cone. The three cone's the one that always gets me excited. Obviously, looking at that change of direction, 6, 7, 8 three cone. What was some of the feedback you got from teams or even teammates after that pro day? Obviously, a lot of hype coming out of that.
They just told me I guess one of the things I heard is they told me I look fast running my 40, and mainly how proud of me they were and how I killed it. And that's what I wanted to accomplish, killing a pro day, just because you put in so much time for being away training for pro day. So it was I was kind of waiting for it. And our pro day was one of the later ones. So it was the anticipation started to build.
I'd be interested to know, what feedback teams have given you in terms of, positional alignment at the next level. Mike and I on the podcast talk sometimes about, there's this opportunity for you to play close to line scrimmage, even along the edge at 6'3", 245. And you have this skill set, this athleticism to have a pass rushing role in the NFL. I'm interested to know if you've gotten similar feedback from teams about maybe having that versatile role, similar to kind of how Dante Hightower was used. Some people project Micah Parsons to play edge in the NFL, or at least some edge, at least rush the passer sometimes. I'd be interested to know what teams have said about that.
Yeah, I've been hearing different things from all teams. I think a good amount of teams are looking at me as a 3-4 outside linebacker. A few teams mentioned DN to me. Another few teams mentioned me playing Mike linebacker with the opportunity to be a situational pass rusher. So I guess it just depends on what team and their needs.
Mm-hmm. Is there a certain role that you kind of want to chase in the NFL? Is there a certain role where you feel most comfortable or feel like you could be most productive?
I think any role that just kind of allowed me to be outside on the edge and just kind of, get after the passer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. Definitely playing you along the edges where I would lean as well. I'd be interested to know, kind of going back to your time at Ohio State, what all went into your preparation. I like asking prospects about, what exactly they look for on film from a keys or tendencies perspective as they prepare for a certain opponent. What are you looking for, and what's your process as you're watching film on an upcoming offense in a game?
What I would do was on Monday, that was our off day. So our coaches would put together the run cut up for the 11 for first, second down for the team we were playing. So I would kind of go through the cut up, take notes on the different formations, the tendencies, what run plays they was running out of those formations, and take notes on all that information. And heading into Tuesday, that was our first practice of the week, and it's basically first, second down run game practice. So. Just before practice, I would go back through the cut up. I would give it my coach just to make sure, I have the same sense of taste as him, or to get any also changes that the D staff might have made because they have multiple meetings throughout the day before practice. And then, heading to Wednesday, I would kind of do the same thing for the third down game plan for the pass game, third and long, third and short, third and medium, and just take notes and, what plays they doing out of formation and personnel groupings and tendencies. And then kind of into Thursday, I would get with my coach and just ask them what's the best games to watch at opposing team. And I would kind of get our game plan that we already have kind of pretty much solidified towards the end of the week. Just kind of go through and start playing the game mentally, lining myself, what's my job, what's my alignment, what am I keying? And I would just kind of do that for all of the backer spots in our defense. And I would just kind of go through, watch up to halftime, see what the offense is doing, mainly in the first 15 plays, who they are as an offense, and how, whatever checks and calls I might make defensively. And I would do the same thing, heading to Friday, and I would kind of go to my coach room and play the game with him, so he would, signal the call that we were, whatever we was running, and I would just kind of go through playing the game the same way.
And how much has that, film study changed in the off season? Have you had a lot of opportunity to go back and watch film on yourself and kind of critique your own film, or watch guys in the NFL, maybe guys that you pattern your game after?
I've had the opportunity to watch a little film. I've been mostly training and stuff, but I haven't went back and watched a little film just because I want to kind of stay intact to the game of football and keep my mental sharp. So I've had the opportunity to go back, and there's some things I wish I would have did differently in certain games, or just kind of looking at it, again, as far as maybe my alignment, my initial first step, I might have had a false step. So just looking at little things, just trying to critique and, detail. I haven't really watched much right now because I've been training, for pro day, and then I'm just trying to get back in football shape. So, but definitely, I love watching the guys in the league and trying to, pick up things they might do that or help them just to, part of my own game.
Do you have like a favorite player or favorite players in the NFL that you like to watch?
Yeah, I mean, right now I love to watch Von Miller. I love to watch Shaq Barrett from Tampa Bay. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but I know his first name. I think it's like Yannick.
Oh, Yannick Ngakoue.
Yeah, I didn't want to, mess up his last. That's why I didn't even attempt to say it. But I love the way he rushed the passer, and then even some of the inside guys like Fred Warner, Bobby Wagner. So yeah.
That's awesome, man. Very cool. What do you feel like, based off maybe the feedback you've had from teams? I'm sure you've been on a lot of Zoom calls where you feel like there's most opportunity for you to improve in the NFL.
I didn't quite catch that at the beginning of that.
I'm sorry. I said, based off the feedback maybe you've received from teams and the Zoom calls that you've had and that kind of stuff, where do you feel like is the biggest opportunity for you to improve in the NFL?
As far as like what?
Like improve on your game in the NFL.
Oh, like a certain area? I just want to make sure I understand the question.
No, all good,
okay.
Man.
Yeah, definitely like my pass rush. I think a lot of teams understand how raw I am in that area, and I have great self-awareness of how raw I am in that area. Not having, the opportunity as maybe some other guys that's in this draft, as far as the amount of pass rush snaps they've had, or the opportunity just to develop that area, because it's kind of hard when you play multiple positions. You can't be everywhere at once, as far as even throughout the week of practice, as far as getting down to Indy with the D-line while not missing linebacker Indy, or trying to go down a one-on-one pass rush but not miss 7-on-7. So it's just kind of hard to get everything, but that's definitely one area, I'm looking forward to developing my skill set in.
I'd love to hear your take on some of the other Ohio State guys. I had Justin Hilliard on the podcast recently. He's a Cincinnati guy, and talked about, he gave me his scouting report on the other Ohio State linebackers in this draft class, Tuff Borland, yourself, and obviously Pete Werner as well. I'd love to hear just your thoughts on them, and obviously practicing with them as players and as teammates. I
definitely think Justin is like a sleeper that a lot of people don't know about him. I mean, he's a great athlete. He can run sideline to sideline. I think he definitely plays faster than, if you look at his football. No, he plays way faster than that. You can feel with him and watching him. I mean, he has a knack for being around a ball. I mean, he's, early on in his career, he had injuries and he battled through them. And that's the only thing. I feel like that's the reason people just don't know, because he was injured, just dealing with injuries. But he's a hell of a player. And I feel like he's a guy who can play Mike or Will. He's versatile. So, and he's a hell of a special teams player as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason he's a sleeper, man, is just the injuries. He talked to me about just how many injuries he's had. It's just absolutely absurd. Both biceps, Achilles, said meniscus tear in his spring ball in freshman year. Like, that's crazy how many injuries he's gone through. Some other guys I'd love to get your comments on is two guys that are really hard to tackle, I'm sure, on the other side of the ball. Trey Sermon, who has some of the best contact balance of any running back in this class. And then also Justin Fields, who 4'4" athlete, big size. I'd love to hear maybe some stories about trying to practice against those guys for a few years.
Trey, he runs hard. I mean, you pretty much hit it on the head. He's a great athlete. He's fast. I mean, we were training together. At the same location for our pro days, the same training facility. But Trey run hard. He has a mean stiff form. He's not a easy back you can take to the ground. I mean, in our practices, we don't tackle to the ground. I mean, we just kind of thud up and wrap up. So it's not like I really have to tackle him. But I can definitely say, he runs well. He runs with his pass low, and he's definitely one of those backs who try to deliver the blow to you first. As far as Justin, he's a great teammate. I'm going to definitely miss competing against him. There's been times in practice where I might have been blitzing. And, he scrambled out the pocket, and I'd be like yelling, "That's a sack." And he'd be like, "That's not a sack, nope." He'd be like, "Nope, stupid, I'm gone." Or just cracking jokes, talking noise at practice. Just the way you would do it with your teammates. So, he's a hell of a competitor, best quarterback in this draft, in my opinion. And so I'm looking forward to what the future holds for him.
That's awesome, man. I really appreciate the time. We can finish with this one. I'd love to hear, what your motivation or your why is behind, continuing to play football and make the sacrifices you do to play college at the level you did, and then obviously pursue a career in the NFL.
Well, I think it's just a start. I mean, just my genuine love I have for the game. I feel like eventually, at some point, you have to kind of realize how genuine your love is for it, because I feel like when you're younger playing it, you don't have many factors going into it. You're just playing football. You're not thinking much of it, but as you start to kind of the level of competition starts to rise, and you kind of get from high school to college as far as how much time you have to put into your film study, how much time you have to actually put into taking care of your body and develop a routine. I feel like if you don't have genuine love for the game, then, you won't want to do those things. And, I came to realization how genuine my love was for it because, in order for me to take this next step that I'm taking for us trying to, enter into the league, I had to learn how to do those things. So for me, that's what it was. And then, my why would kind of keeps me going. And my parents, I feel like they made a lot of sacrifices for me, not only me, but my older brother and my other siblings to have the opportunities they had. So I just want to make my parents proud. And, I just feel like I owe them the world.
Fantastic stuff, man. I really appreciate the time, and I wish you the best of luck moving forward.
Thank you so much.
Now joining the 2-4 Drafts podcast is former Syracuse defensive back Trill Williams. And before we started recording, talking a little food here on Friday, talking Chipotle, can you please walk through your go-to Chipotle order and include the special ingredient at the back end, Trill? I need to hear this.
All right, so I walk up to the front of the line, I ask if I get a bowl. I get, chicken, white rice, black beans, some queso in it, lettuce, cheese. And then, once I get the order and I leave, I always have to make a stop and get some nacho cheese Doritos, right? And you gotta get the smaller bag, right? So you can use them all. So you crush up the smaller bag, you open it, you pour it in there, and you put the lid back on and you shake it around. And there you go.
Dude, I mean, at first, when you first told me, I was kind of blown away by it. I a little, maybe not grossed, maybe grossed out. But now the more I think about it, dude, it could be fire. It sounds kind of good. I might have to do it.
Somebody, when I first got to Syracuse, I was cool with this guy, and that's what he did. He was a upperclassman, and he put me on to the Dorito combination. I was like, you put Doritos in your Chipotle? Try it. And then ever since I tried it then, I've been doing it since.
Man, dude, I went through a lot of Chipotle in my college career. Never had the opportunity to do the Doritos Trill Williams order. I'm gonna have to make it happen though. It's gonna have to happen. All right, let's get into the meat of the podcast here. Talk more about obviously your time at Syracuse. Where I wanted to really start, man, is honestly, you had a lot of opportunity to play a handful of different positions at Syracuse. I think you started mostly at outside corner, played over 150 snaps at outside corner in 2018 and in 2019, but then kind of made this transition to slot corner for the Syracuse Orange over the past 2 seasons. What is your opinion been of those 2 positions, and what has feedback been from NFL teams on where they want to play you in the NFL?
Pretty much, even when I got into college, I saw myself as an outside corner. In high school, that's primarily where I played on defense. Played offense as well, but defense. Yeah, I played a lot of corner, and when I came in, that's where I was at. Fall camp, they had me at corner. Beginning of the season, against who we play, Western Michigan, I played corner, and that's where I was comfortable at. And the team needed me to move to nickel due to injury at that position, and they felt like I was the only guy capable of being able to switch and make an impact at that position. So it was cool with me. As a freshman, you just want to get in the field any kind of way. And, I took it and ran with it and never gave it back. So got on the field and, just was playing football at that time. And, teams right now, they're looking at me as, some corner, some nickel, some safety, which I played this past season. So it's really a toss-up, with what teams need.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Fortunately for you, former 4-star athlete, have the build to play outside corner, safety, or slot if you wanted to, 6'2", 198 in that range. I think, when Mike and I talk about it, the athletic profile is fantastic, but where I'd want to try you at first, and I'm sure you probably agree, is outside corner. I mean, it's one of the more valuable positions on the football field. You have that opportunity to get kicked into the slot or play safety down the road, but outside corner, man, you have the length, you have the size, you have the athleticism. Let's see it, man. I'm ready to see it at outside corner out of the gate. I'd love to hear from your perspective, kind of the main differences between playing the 2 positions, because you look in today's NFL, more defenses are playing nickel or even dime of late, because how often teams are trying to put 11 personnel, 10 personnel out there, and tight ends now are becoming 240, 235 pound receivers at this point. George Kittle, Travis Kelce, it's just not fair. So many DBs have to start on the football field, including slot cornerbacks and obviously outside corners. What's the main difference between those 2 positions, those 2 pre-snap alignments?
I feel like the difference between playing outside and playing in the slot, you got to be more, I'll say, finesse in the slot, because there's more variety of receivers in the slot. Like you said, there's big tight ends, and then you got your Tyreek Hills that will come into the slot and will burn whoever's there. And the game is changing a lot, so you can't really put linebackers there at that position anymore. So guys like myself and other guys that's in this draft can move over to from corner to be able to be in the slot. So for me, being rangy and being able to be versatile and play these different positions, like for me, that helped me, tremendously to, like I said, to get on the field and to show that I'm versatile.
I'd love to talk more about kind of your given game week preparation. What you look for specifically on film when you're preparing for a certain opponent or a certain player, a certain receiver, even. What keys or tendencies do you look for in the practice week?
I'm gonna give some advice while I give my answer as well.
Exciting.
To any young guys that's watching this right now. What you really want to look for is the offensive lineman. That might sound crazy, but the offensive lineman gives the play away 90% of the game. Whether they're light on the hands, which tells you that they're not about to run block. They're about to either pull or pass block. So watching them right there is a big key. And I watch a lot of release tapes from different type of receivers, and I like to go into games. I want to know who's the backup to the starter, if the backup doesn't come in, who's the third string. I'd rather be over prepared than under prepared. So those two things right there, watching the quarterback and his mechanics, and to see him, why he changed his play, like what did he see, out of the defense for him to check the play and make the receivers run hitches across the board. So things like that really, give you a step in. That's what makes me different between, a lot of different guys in this draft.
Man, I've talked to a lot of cornerbacks in this class and in previous classes. I don't think a single one has brought up watching offensive linemen and looking for them to kind of help you, with the pre-snap or with the play recognition. I think it makes a ton of sense, though. You
got to see it because, like, at high safety, you could beat a lot of linebackers to the play, because you could see the lineman, before anything. So that plays go when we play Liberty, and I was high safety, and I beat the linebackers and the D linemen to the play because I saw the lineman. He wasn't, pass blocking. I was like, all right, I'm just going to shoot the gap and, get a TFL.
And that, those instincts that, like you said, over preparation combined with obviously, the athleticism you bring to the table is what will allow for those kind of game-changing playmaking plays the next level, regardless if you're playing slot corner, outside corner, or safety in the NFL. I'd be interested to know more about kind of your film study and your preparation and maybe how that's changed in the offseason. Have you had a lot of opportunity to, turn back film on yourself and critique your own game, or even, watch guys in the NFL and pattern your game after those guys?
Of course. You can never watch too much film, I feel like. So I always, like, even right now, like sometimes I go back and watch a game from freshman year to see how my game, changed throughout the year. So I watch a freshman year game, full game, even my demeanor on the field. I like to watch that to see if I show when I'm tired, that what can I do to not show that I'm tired on the field. So even watching like I said that, and going back to last year's tape, watching my footwork and what could I have done better. And I like to critique myself a lot. I feel like the biggest thing that I took away from watching myself play is I'm always one play away of making a better play. So what I mean by that is there's certain plays that I could have had a pick on, pick six, or I ended up getting a PBU or just getting there to make the tackle. So trusting my eyes and believing what I see on film, will take me, a long way going forward to the NFL.
That's awesome, man. Definitely maintaining that work ethic, maintaining, that commitment to film is only going to help you a ton in the NFL. I'd like to use this as an opportunity, too, to talk about some of the other defensive backs coming out of Syracuse this year. You guys had some dogs back there, man. The Syracuse Orange had some dogs. Andre Cisco has been a PFF favorite for quite some time now, another really, really good athlete in that Syracuse secondary. And then talk about good athletes. Fatu Melifonwu was practically built in the lab. I mean, that guy's, athleticism score, I think when you look at it from a PFF perspective, is up there with some of the best we've seen from the cornerback position over the past 5-10 years. So
look at his brother, too. They're both gifted athletes, and their stature is just so crazy. Like that's what NFL teams be like, I want that out there on the field as a corner. So it's just
100%, dude.
Crazy.
The aliens. I've been doing this for a little bit now, and Obi Melifonwu, coming out of UConn, was one of the first players I ever interviewed. And talking to him and seeing his frame and what he did at the combine a few years ago, man, it's just insane what those two dudes can do athletically. I'd love to get your scouting report, though, beyond obviously the athleticism and stuff. Talk to me about Fatu Melifonwu and Andre Cisco in the locker room and on the football field, and what you see from them.
With both of those guys, I see guys that's hungry. We all came in, actually me and Dre came in together, in that class, and, we just wanted to get on the field. And, if he was more to himself and to his, with the guys he came in with, we was just, freshmen that just came in. And then we really molded together after the bowl game win, and we felt like, us three was the future. And, we just grind together. And, those guys, they're leaders, they want to be the best at everything. And And that's why I gravitated towards them, because, they wanted to win and I wanted to win myself. So it was pretty much a competition between, all of us, and, one of us pushed each other to be the best version of ourselves. So, with those guys, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get 1% better, wherever they go, and the team that they're on, the team's going to get 1% better, because, they're going to put their best foot forward and want to go out there and show that they're the best.
Throughout this pre-draft process, how much have you guys stayed in contact? I'm sure you guys are talking a ton, maybe playing some Warzone together. I don't know. Really?
Every day.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. That's very cool that you guys
are. A lot of people that say, their best friends are in the same, draft and are nobody. A lot of people can't say that, and those like my brothers, and I love both of them. So, I wish them nothing but the best.
That's freaking awesome, man. That's really good to hear. I'd love to hear more about. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there, but I'd love to hear more about what NFL players you feel like you watch a ton of that you kind of can pattern your game after, or take certain pieces of their game.
There's 3 players that I take, pieces of the games, and I watch a lot of film on. I watch a lot of film on Jamal Adams. He's a real physical guy. Like he has no problem coming down and guarding the tight end and being in the box and coming down and making a big hit. So I take that from him. Another guy I watch is Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger.
Mm-hmm.
He's always around the ball. He finds ways to he finds different ways to take the ball away. Even going back to LSU, he was just a ball magnet, and that's what I see myself as too. I didn't have a lot of picks, but I had forced fumbles, and I found ways to get the ball without getting picked. So that right there. And another guy I say is Jalen Ramsey. He's competitive, and people say he's cocky, but he's just confident in his game, and I feel like I'm confident in my game. Everything I do on the field and what I put on film is my best version of myself, and I feel like when I step on the field, no matter if it's offense or defense, I'm the best player. So
3 of the best defensive backs in the game right there. I've always said that if you go back and watch Jamal Adams' tape at LSU, it is exactly what you look for in a safety prospect. It's like every single play, it's just like, oh my gosh, this is why, he was drafted as high as he was. All 3 of those guys too, though, you bring those guys up, they play the mental side of the game as well. Jalen Ramsey especially, playing that mental side in terms of talking trash, getting into people's heads, playing confident, playing cocky. It's a part of it. When with the wide receiver position, cornerback, tackle, pass rusher, you have so many opportunities to see the same player in a game, where you're going kind of one-on-one, a game within a game. What's your approach to the mental side of it? Do you like to talk trash? Do you like to get in people's heads? Do you play confident, cocky like a Jalen Ramsey?
With me, it really is just a flow of the game. Like I just go out there and play football, whether if it's, one game I'm amped up and then I feel like, yeah, I'm gonna talk this game because I feel like I'm the best player out here. I'm gonna do that. Some games, I can't be too much about myself and get wrapped up in the emotions with the game. So I gotta play with the team and feed off them and they feed off me. So it's really depending on the weekend and who we're playing.
Awesome stuff, man. Really appreciate the time. We can finish with this one. I asked players a lot of the prospects in this process, what their motivation is, what their why is to kind of continue to play football. Continue to make the sacrifices you do to play at the collegiate level, prepare for your pro day, prepare for the NFL. What is that driving force for you? That motivation, that why to continue to play this game?
I say that has to be my family. They provided for me, since I was born, and they took me to early morning practices, early morning workouts, games that's, was in Florida when I was from New York. So, I just want to, go out there and give them my best and give myself, the best effort that I can give to them. And, I just, at the end of the day, my goal is to get a gold jacket, so I just keep that in my head and keep pushing forward.
Fantastic stuff, man. Really appreciate the time and best of luck moving forward.
I appreciate it.
Baron Browning, Trill Williams, last interviews of the 2021 NFL Draft for 2-for-1 Drafts. You love to see it. Until next time, Austin Gale, Mike Renner, David Sofaro, Mike Quinn, 2-for-1 Drafts.